simple question to ask to start this module. What is leadership? I'll take answers, please.
Taking initiative and being a good role model.
Investing in your team and doing what is necessary to make them the best individuals that they can be.
Having good communication to know, first make sure that everyone in the team knows what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
Rather than domineering, just knowing when to step in and when to backseat.
Yeah, absolutely. Simba.
Leading by example.
Big leading by example guy.
Define the word with the word. We're talking about what is leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I wanted to make sure the joke was that.
No, it's a joke, but that's actually a really good point. So when we talk about leadership, right, it's a very abstract concept. It seems like we use the word leadership to define the word leadership, which is awesome, and all of the things you guys said are super right and super accurate. But when it comes to putting that into context and actually using that to better camp, that's not super easy. Like, leading by example is awesome, and I'm a super big fan of that, but like, we can be more concrete with that. We can come up with more concrete ways to implement that. So now think about that question, the same kind of what is leadership, but in the context of like, what does leadership look like, or what does leadership sound like? How would that change some of our answers?
It looks like if you notice that something isn't necessarily right, you take action or look into it.
Yeah.
Nice.
It means being responsible to make sure that things are like happening on time in the way we need to happen.
Yeah.
Being understanding when people make mistakes. Like defining the word with the word.
It's accountability and also taking initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else? Wow, what are-
Being confident, but also like knowing when you need help. I don't know. When to use your tools, like the people you're
definitely.
leading.
Yeah, it's knowing how to use your team and how to bring out the best in people around you as well.
Definitely. Leo?
Finding the balance of being respected by others and being friendly with others.
Yeah, super good point. Leadership is definitely not like it's not like a one person thing leading an entire body. It's definitely like more of a mentorship thing between like those being led and the leader proper. Bumblebee?
It sounds calm. Like it's not, you don't lose your temper if like things get kind of heated or like things get, out of control. Yeah, you have to like deal with the moment and still lead, using the word, lead by example, by staying calm and like setting a good example for everyone else, even when things get out of control.
Yeah, definitely. Wildbutter brought up like kids at camp, like emote as you emote, and that's a really good point of that. If you lead really angry and like stressed out and you're really tense, that does not convey the same level of leadership to kids and your fellow counselors as being calm and collected would. Anyone else? All right, cool. So we're going to do an activity to model leadership. So I need everyone to stand up. And you're going to get into the four corners of the classroom by age. And you can ask any questions. Go.
Hi.
Can we talk?
Yeah, you can talk. I'm not answering your question.
Oh, by class.
By age.
So
So like by grade basically first, and then I split up and then like.
Is anyone really hungover here?
Yo.
Oh, no question. You can't ask yourself. Wait, I think you can ask yourself questions. But it's good to
By class or age?
You are not allowed to ask questions.
Wait, team, how do we want to divide by age? Like, how do we want to define age? Class year or by number?
How would you define your actual age? Or
You mean your way after the half year? Like how old you are? Okay.
That's all.
20-year-old? Okay. I'm 22.
21,
21.
equal to 12. There we go, 21.
We'll join.
Yeah. How old are you guys over there? 21. How old are you guys over there? Oh no.
All right, so what happened? What groups do we even have? You guys are 20. I was on 21. You're 21. And then 19, 18. All right, so thinking about this activity in a leadership perspective, what was done poorly? Well, specifically, I would have been the leader in this example, but like, what could I have done better to explain the activity?
You gave non-specific directions.
Bingo. Yeah, I did.
You weren't open to questions.
I was super not open to questions, actually. I explicitly stated no questions. Do not do that. One of leading and be open to questions.
There were 5 ages and you give us 4 corners.
Did not understand the activity. Did you have one, Connor?
I was going to say you didn't let us ask questions.
Yeah, no questions. So leadership is obviously about how you communicate to other people, and even if you have an idea of how the activity went in my mind, so say I wanted you to divide up by class and I said age, then I'm not communicating that expectation very well. So as a leader, you need to think about, in every situation, how can I best communicate what I'm trying to get you to do, and how can I best communicate it in a way that you'll be able to understand and then act on. You guys can sit back down. Thanks for participating. So as
That's nice. No, it's not. You're right.
So as you mentioned when we were talking about leadership, leadership is not like a sole activity, right? Leadership is not just the responsibility of one individual, it's kind of the responsibility of us as a collective body as a whole, as a group of leaders. So what are some things you guys did well in that situation to alleviate my poor leadership in that example?
We kind of like made statements on what stuff. You said we couldn't ask questions at all, so we kind of, like Ralph did a good job of just like kind of just posed a couple of different statements to the group and we kind of went along with that.
Yeah, definitely. You organized yourselves. You took the arbitrary situation and made it much more specific as you saw fit. Anything else? I definitely saw like different individuals at points in that activity kind of like take an advanced leadership role and like try to grasp an understanding and say like, all right, we were given kind of arbitrary instructions, so let's do this. Like, let's be concrete about this so we can actually get something done. So that's super important. At camp, you're going to be given arbitrary free time or general free activities, and you as a leader have to make something much more specific out of that instead of just, hey, be in your cabin for an hour. You have to then be more specific and find something to do at that time. So next, we should have, Captain, you see the paper there? Can you guys break up into 4 groups? I'm going to let you figure this out. How you want to break up?
Wait, is this another leadership?
This is stay in your seats, but just like
without talking.
So like back corner.
Close your eyes and don't talk. Split up into 4 groups.
Do like corners?
Really concentrate.
You guys wanna work together?
Yeah, come on over.
We could be a group of 3.
Oh, hey, I'm there too.
Okay.
I feel like that makes it really
We're supposed to have pens.
Wait, what group are you guys in?
Do you guys wanna work together?
I don't know.
You can be with us.
3 groups?
Merge?
Or should we split this in?
You need a pen?
I don't know.
I've handed out paper.
Alright, so
We have 11.
we have our
Yeah, we're 4, we're good.
I don't know.
we have our groups. Alright, so
Join us.
you're
Yeah, I
probably
got
gonna
a 5,
remember
good.
this is the ideal leader activity, so you need to draw
Yes.
what an ideal leader looks like.
Oh,
No
that's
words,
so
you have to use symbols.
These are like the overnight training last year, like the remember that last year, like, huge campus we did it, you can like really read it. Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, I missed it. That was so fun last year.
Go out like 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Can we try and draw a Trump hair to be ironic?
Okay. Someone direct me.
Huge ears.
What qualities do you think are most important for leaders?
Like elephant ears. Or Dumbo ears.
Giant ears for those
Nice.
So that is the first step.
It did. So listen before you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make them, let's try and make them very androgynous, if possible.
Both can be
Leaders
good.
can look like anybody.
Yes. Just regular shirt and
Oh,
pants.
wait, use different
big
colors.
heart.
Yeah,
color pen.
yeah,
You're
red
great.
for the
You're
heart.
great. Ooh, I
Add
have like
detail.
a
Huge heart.
20 pack of colors.
Like bigger than.
Wait, to make his like arms and legs, like each one of them different colors.
Do we have like big arms for helping?
Yes.
Oh, that's a
And
good
also
idea.
embracing
Should be way bigger.
metaphorically and physically.
Nice.
There we go.
The Grinch, the heart
There
going
we
3
go.
sizes.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah, big helping hands maybe.
Oh yeah. Switch comes out just so.
I feel like an elephant.
What?
An elephant.
Also kind of like an elephant.
Yeah.
Like Dobby, I don't know.
It does look like Dobby.
Has like flowers for hands.
Do leaders have big eyes or no?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
see
they are-
the
they are
best in
aware.
everyone.
Yeah.
They are
And
aware.
I'd say an average sized mouth.
Oh, they also
Yeah.
have ideas. We could do like some like idea
Oh, now we're
bubbles.
hitting the
Yeah.
Now we're
like
in
a
the
light bulb.
Yeah, should we do a light bulb or like a...
Oh, I like a light bulb. I wish there was
Should
yellow.
we do both? Oh, do you want... I have a yellow pen.
Okay.
Do we want to have?
I feel like a yellow pen is so random. Time out. What?
I know, right?
Not so
Yeah.
well on white.
I have a yellow pen.
Unhelpful.
I never use it. But yeah, I have a yellow
Do
pen.
we want to have like people speaking in their ears, or do we think that's implied?
Okay, what do we imply?
Alright.
Let's
What do we want to do for their? Do their feet matter at all?
let's talk about feet.
Stylish shoes.
They're
Like some Converse
enthusiastic,
maybe or
but like an exclamation point. Because they have an emoji.
Yeah,
Maybe they could have boots, like work boots, prepared for anything.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
They're happy. They're
His
approaching.
Timbos?
Or her boots were made for walking.
His or her.
They could have Timbos, then they're like prepared to go to a party or to go like work on a construction site.
Prepared for anything.
Put pockets on the shorts.
Good idea.
Excited about this.
Do you want to do anything for hair? Or half hair, half no hair?
What would be the...
Gotta be
What
bald.
about a hat?
I think-
What kind of hat would it wear?
Last year I said hair,
Wait,
but
wait,
then
a lizard hat? Are they white?
Oh.
Or we have the light bulb. I don't know.
or we could have like a
We
fedora.
have like,
Classic.
Yes, yes.
They keep composure. That's what it can be.
There we go.
Signal. Top hats are like composed.
I think that we should give them cargo short pockets as well because they're always prepared. I think that's
Yeah. Definitely a khaki cargo guy.
Yep.
nice.
Pockets for...
I love that like
prepared.
our whole conversation's getting recorded.
Oh yeah.
We'll show them the final product.
Yeah.
All the kids back.
Anything else?
I feel like we can have some sort of graphic on their tee to like some sort of
Do
word.
they need to know?
Smelling's not a part of being a good leader.
Smelling may distract you from being a good leader. if
No,
anything.
Maybe
If I
like
saw
a little dimple.
somebody without a nose is kind of scary.
Voldemort was a good leader, though.
Yeah,
He didn't have a nose, but he was a good leader.
Hot take.
What about...
He had some very loyal followers.
Exactly.
Leaders... They know how
I
to
just
be
remember.
fun and silly, so, right?
Yeah.
We know when
Clown
to have
makeup.
fun. Yeah,
Give him a clown nose.
Could have a
Give him a
yo-yo.
clown nose. It can't smell, it's just funny.
They know how to let loose.
Great.
Can't smell it. It's just funny. I'm excited.
Can you imagine seeing somebody like this in real life?
Actually, there's
Freak out.
this doctor.
This is like friendly
Does like Wild.
This is like
He's worth a pound
this is like a friendly Pennywise and Tim's.
Cargo
Cross
shorts.
with, oh god, that's what
It's your friendly Pennywise and Tim Williams. That's it.
Ugh.
I don't like it. Modern day. Pennywise were
He converted. Anything else?
I would kiss hands.
This activity's still good after like 3 years.
This is like really
You will never see one of these look normal ever. Like, challenge.
what's that?
Do they need like maybe a wristband?
Oh, can we put a ground? Because leaders are grounded.
What if we put a JM on the shirt?
For what?
For Jake Max?
Yes. Put a jam on there. Do it for the brand.
That's not related.
Put it for the brand. Come on.
It's not related.
It's
We should draw
advertising.
Carl if
It's
anything.
advertising.
Are you like a
Let's go.
marketer?
We should draw Carl if anything.
Carl?
Yeah, and then draw Carl.
Oh, I think.
Carl's cute. I've been making it wherever I hear my cousin traits to test these days.
Huh? I've been making it up. Yeah, I didn't know.
We can now present Sarah.
Oh.
Ooh.
It's fancy.
Damn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we know where we're going for overnight training yet or no? Did they, so Sacred Heart still hasn't gotten back to us?
They're really difficult to get a hold of. We're still trying, but we're also looking at other options at this point.
My house?
I would say camp. I want to be able to set up a bunch of tents somewhere and just like hang out.
That'd be cute. We'd have to pick a warm weekend.
We'd have to
I was gonna say.
find tents also.
Yeah. One, we need tents. And two, where do we tent? It's just camp on like South.
How many councils do we have? 60?
Yeah.
Yeah, my backyard probably couldn't hold 30 tents. Also, like on flat ground.
Just go on South Pod.
Yep, South Pod.
Camp on
I
South
would say we should do it all like the woods by the lake and just don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Hey, listen up, listen up.
Still got it. Alright, so we need one representative from each group to come to the front and present your leader. So, group in the background, who's going up?
Leaders,
Choose the dot can.
know how to have fun.
Ooh, 2 people.
Wow.
Damn it. This looks very similar to ours.
They have a clown nose. All you have is biceps. Give us an arms. They're strong.
Task force.
Well, that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of exclusionary. What if the leader doesn't have big biceps?
Leaders can be
So throwing the can.
Okay, so this is group in the back. We have big ears for a good listener. Thank you. And a mohawk, just to
Unless he doesn't get embarrassed very easily.
Exactly.
He or she.
we have a big heart and a backpack to carry all the supplies. We have some muscles because strong. We have calf and biceps. It's important to be well balanced. We have thumbs up for optimism. Let's see what else we have. Oh, force field. That's hard to deflect the bad vibes.
Why are they holding a kid up?
Because he lifts people up.
That's against the rules, I guess.
That's a rule of 3 violation.
Even figuratively.
Rule of 3 violation.
There's a light bulb for good ideas.
What was the mohawk again?
Doesn't get embarrassed.
Yes,
It
only
doesn't
a
get
lot of
embarrassed.
questions. 37.
This like person recycling diagram over in the top right corner with that code.
I don't know what. Oh.
I think we have to do
Thank you. Yes, we had everyone add something to the group. I don't remember
Yeah,
what I
so that's his force field. So like all the insignificant problems will just bounce off them.
Now, why are the insignificant problems a person?
It's like an example. A lot of symbols.
Just deflects them with his biceps.
Not the big shoes to fill. It's big though. Thank you, Tommy.
No, that was
That definitely wasn't me. I just drew that.
Yes, yes.
Do you think leaders enforce the rule of three?
That's another reason.
Well, you're throwing them away.
He's upside
This might have been more of a creative choice, but what's going on with the top left corner there?
Who drew that?
Looks like a student.
The bad vibes.
Are just problems.
Is that what the sprays from the haters look like?
Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
Bouncing right off.
I just think you guys did a good job.
Oh, and also big eyes because they see everything and the smile.
And dimples.
And dimples.
Wait, what are the dimples?
Ours is like the 2 feet combo. That's real color.
It's just
Good
color.
color, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, we should go upstairs.
Also looks like an elf.
Yo, you said letters. You said no words.
That group's way bigger than ours.
First we're going to talk about, it's always a sunny day with our leader, because she's so happy. She's wearing a ponytail and she has Fitbit, which is both energy, always. She has big ears because she's always listening. She's an active listener. She has big eyes because she's seeing everything, and a big friendly smile. She also has a big heart and little like stuff on her hand. She's working really hard. Yeah, her hands get dirty. She's working really hard. And we all signed up, so we're really proud of her.
Should we say Z when we present? Should we say Z instead of he or she to be inclusive?
Does anybody want to point?
You go for it.
Would you like to point?
Go point? I can go point.
Yeah, can you go point?
I'll go point.
Yes.
Do we need something to point? Is that what I'm saying? Do you need a point?
Yeah, wait, we have
Do you need a point? We need a point stuff or? Okay, fine. Yeah.
Good drawing. Thank you. I did try it.
So our leader can look is kind of androgynous because leaders can look like anyone or anything. That's great. So up top there's a light bulb because they have really great ideas. They have a top hat because they are always composed. They have big ears, as everyone does. So it's kind of like an elf, basically, because they are always listening. The eyes are so that they're always seeing what's going on with their group. The nose is a clown nose, because they're always ready to have fun. And the smile is because they're always happy and trying to make everyone better. The exclamation mark is they have great ideas as well. They're listening into their ears. The heart is because it's kind of like the Grinchler, it grew 3 sides because they have a great heart, love for everyone. We've got Carl on the t-shirt, of course. Camp Custom is the best. Big helping hands right there. Their arms are always ready to give you an embrace, maybe not an actual embrace, because you know, always let the campers engage. And as we move down, you can see that they have shorts, and specifically cargo shorts, because they're always ready, they're always prepared. They can have anything in the shorts, you know, like a watch. And then they have boots because they're ready. They're specifically, I think, Timberlands because they're ready to either, you know, go on a hike or party. They're ready for anything. To the ground because they are always ground.
Now, we do sneakers on our leader, and you appear to have drawn boots. Timberlands, specifically.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that Tims make for a more effective leader than sneakers?
Well, because these were made for walking.
Also, I'll give somebody $10 if they dress up and go to a party like this.
Dude, I'll dress up like that.
With a clown nose and big ears.
I already have these.
Wear a clown nose and a top hat.
That's all you. Okay, I'll point you present. They actually called me Dumbo in high school. Also, Wi-Fi.
Great job.
Wi-Fi? Yeah, my ears were big enough. I got Wi-Fi. It wasn't well thought out. They were high schoolers.
All right, so full disclosure. Brace yourself.
37. Aww.
So we began. It wasn't very original. Figures. And then all of a sudden, HG suggested, you know what? We should like incorporate a 37 jersey on because he's a good leader. We evolved from here into the balance of justice in one hand, and the other hand, lifting people up. And yeah, holding people up. And of course, contrary to some other groups, we are abiding by the rule of 3. As the leader does. Yes?
You're not abiding by the rule that you're not supposed to pick up the campers, though.
They're not campers.
They're who's?
They're not campers. Yeah. And then we really like ran out of ideas. Well, first of all, the hearts for eyes. We thought that was a creative touch of showing the love of a leader. Loving the team and whatnot. And then we really got out of ideas. We really took on this 37 role. We were kind of trying to like go finish the drawings to 37. We got some scruff, standard hair, and a big smile because leaders are always happy. Actually, the bottom, you see, the left leg is far longer than the right because leaders have flaws. Yeah, and then also leaders aren't afraid to be embarrassed sometimes, and as you can see. Question.
Do the earrings signify anything?
Always ready for a good time.
Yeah, they're goofy. So.
Did you get my ears pierced? Like, would that be the beautiful golf or?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Let's put it to a vote.
Yay!
Just put it in the CK General buy.
That was
37
incredible,
busy.
as it always is, and also terrifying. Alright, so, next, can we all close our eyes? I'm actually going to make you close your eyes and notice. So, I want you guys to think of someone that has been a leader to you that was really patient. Give it like 1 minute and just like visualize that person and think about like experiences you had or times you were engaged with them in which they were a really patient leader with you. All right, open your eyes. So I have 3 questions. How do you know that that person was a patient leader? What did they do that was really patient? And what kinds of things did they say to make them sound patient?
I mean, specifically, the leader I thought of was teaching me something that I was, very unfamiliar with, and so I made a lot of mistakes, and would mess up all the time, and really silly mistakes that people shouldn't have been making at this. And every single time, they were very, very kind. They're very, very, understanding of the fact that I was still starting this. It wasn't something that I was super familiar with. And, the words they used were very, very encouraging. Every time that I would mess up and I would need them to fix my mistake, it was always very, it's okay, you'll make these mistakes, you won't be making them soon. Very forward-looking towards, when I would be much better at what I was trying to do, when I wouldn't be so worried about making these mistakes, when I would be able to fix them. And, I thought that, the most important way they were very, very patient was, you know, they would be staying up late with me, you know, like taking care of these things, like helping guiding me through them.
Yeah, awesome. Gumby, did you have your hand raised?
I was just gonna say, like, being understanding of mistakes and like not expecting everyone to do everything right the first time is a good example of patient leader.
Definitely. Ralphie?
A lot of being a patient leader is what the leader doesn't say. So they, like, when I had someone in my life like that, they didn't get angry and they didn't say anything to like bring me down.
Definitely. Connor?
I also think it's a lot of what they don't say and what they do. So if you're not ready to try something for the first time or again, being patient with you and waiting until you are ready to take that next step.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say always just willing to answer questions and whatnot, because a lot of times if people are asking a leader questions over and over and over again, it can be sometimes easy just to get tired of it, but patient leaders that are always willing to help and always willing to answer even just little maniacal questions.
Yeah, definitely. That's like a big one at camp. Kids are going to have questions all the time, and you're going to get super exhausted really, really quick. And so having a positive upbeat attitude the whole week is going to be really hard, and you're going to have to force yourself to do it at some points, but that's super important to being a good leader to your fellow counselors and the campers. Awesome. Did I see if I saw a hand? Birdie?
I think a big part of patience too is recognizing that each individual grows at a different pace and in a different way. So making the extra effort to understand how each individual person, what their goals and their progress looks like, and working with them individually rather than trying to impose something that's worked in the past for someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Learning about your campers and learning their interests. I know Simba brought up the really good situation of learning to work with blading. That's a great example of patient leadership. As you understand the kids more and you learn more about them and things that they enjoy and things that they don't react well to, you'll be able to lead them much better. Awesome. Anyone else have? So this activity, kind of the reason we ask these questions is to get exactly the answers that you guys gave. So again, leadership is much more helpful if it's conveyed in a concrete way as opposed to an abstract way. And so these are all really good examples of what it means to be a patient leader. So for the rest of this module, we want to focus on how can we think of concrete ways to be better leaders at camp, rather than just kind of abstractly talking about leadership as a philosophical concept. So the module defines these four, mantras, I guess you could call them, as 4 really central things to concrete leadership: accessibility, approachability, teamwork, and clear communication. So in the same groups, can you guys just spend 5 minutes talking about ways in which a leader can put these into action? So concrete ways at camp that you can be a clear communicator, have successful teamwork, be very approachable, and be accessible. So we'll do back group if you want to do accessibility, approachability, teamwork, and then clear communication.
All right, team.
So teamwork would be giving people opportunities to giving people an opportunity to also participate in meal eating.
Yeah. I think a good example of it is right when you make your cabin rules on the first day of camp, just making sure it comes from the kids and they feel involved so they feel more responsible for it.
Or I think it may be for an activity or something that requires more of a challenge, maybe an obstacle course or the team's high ropes or something. Let them lead and figure out what to do, and you kind of take a step back and let the team do it.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, you got it.
All right. Hitting the wall.
Yeah. Go team.
I think from a counselor perspective, not trying to take on too much yourself. Rather than to
delegate.
Make sure to delegate to everyone else. Don't try to do too much on your own. It's a long week, so.
Some delegation.
Yeah, what are things
know your limits. Yeah.
Clear communication is obviously you want to communicate specifically and clearly with people, but also you want to communicate body language, with your
case the camper was like, asking what they're saying.
Yeah, I know. So much work
I
to
feel like
do.
my Sunday's more stressful than my Monday. It's like more of a busy day.
Sunday's like my most stressful day of the week.
Sunday's scary. So.
Yeah.
You're making yourself accessible.
But like also Thursdays is part of my weekend now, which is good.
The weekends are longer. It feels shorter now.
Ours was good class like every other day.
Do you really? Wow. Are your Tuesdays and Thursdays just now?
No, they're from 11 to 4:45, so it's just like 4 in a row. And I'm in like only 2 real classes this semester, so it's nice.
4 in a row kind of sucks though.
Yeah, right. So, this was very
Wait, so is there next training next week? No? Is it, so we have like overnight training and then the next one? Okay. And that one's also at 10?
Like one per month.
That one's also at 10?
It's the only other one you have to get up that early for. Overnight, I don't know what time we'll start on that one yet.
Probably earlier, right?
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Huh?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
I would assume early. That one I'm more okay with like getting up early.
Alright, let's just go over some of the points you guys
This is fine.
discussed in your group meeting. So, backroom, you want to start with yours?
We talked about how like accessibility isn't so much. I mean, the difference between accessibility and approachability, I think, is accessible. We're going to the campers and like we're making time to like go to them at the activities, ask them what's going on, how they're having fun, what like kind of interests they have. Create like us. It's our role in creating the dynamic between us and the campers because it's easy to just like sit back and relax and do nothing. But like. And also, Candy Cane brought up a good point where we're trying to make time and like spend time as opposed to maybe just sitting around as counselors, like talking to each other, going out and getting to know these kids because we really want to see them have fun and get to know them a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the interview questions, I don't know if everyone was asked this, was about like a group of counselors like sitting on the side and not interacting with kids, and that is definitely not being accessible. So accessibility is not only like being at camp and like being near the campers, but also like being willing to interact with them and being very open to getting to know them and not just being there like purely as someone who's keeping them safe. You really want to try to build small relationships with these kids so they have the best week possible. Awesome. You guys want to go?
Us?
Yeah.
Oh.
That wasn't very hard.
We had teamwork, so we discussed like making sure within like your cabin unit or something like that the ideas come from like everyone. So specifically about like when you make your rules for your cabin, you have the kids submit the ideas so that they feel like responsible for them. And then our other major point was like as a counselor, you delegate and you know your own limits because you can't take on everything throughout the week, so you've got to use your team as best you can.
Yeah, definitely. I think counselors often like have campers that they become more responsible for just based on like making sure that camper is safe and having a good time, and you kind of know what campers you might be a little bit better at interacting with, and that's definitely a teamwork aspect. If you guys can, if you as a counselor group within your cabins and within your units kind of find a balance of who's going to lead in each situation, that alleviates a lot of stress and kind of provides the best framework. Awesome. Front group here.
So we talked about clear communication, and one of the big things that we talked about was making sure that you're communicating clearly with verbally you're being very specific on what you want these kids to do, but also making sure that your actions and your body language aligns with that, and making sure that part of making sure that you're communicating clearly with your words, but also your body language and your actions are all communicating the same goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I know we brought this up already, but kids emote how you emote, so body language is super, super important. So if I kind of stand up here like this and close my body off to you guys, it's not as inviting as if I am open with arms and am projecting well and I'm smiling. That's like a much better way to communicate what you're saying with your body language. Cool, and then back group.
We had approachability, so a lot of what we talked about was kind of just really being true to yourself and like showing that showing all your quirks or whatever to like the kids so that they would feel comfortable like coming to you with anything, and like in downtime especially, rather than like being distant and talking to other counselors and stuff, just constantly being engaged with the kids and trying to build those relationships so that they'll approach you with anything.
Yeah, definitely. Being genuine, I think, is super important. That's a really good point. If you're genuinely yourself, then the kids are going to be much more likely to be genuinely who they are with you. So you all like were attracted to this organization for some reason. You're here because you find some part of yourself like fulfilled or satisfied by Camp in some way. And so like being genuinely that person at camp will do wonders for both you and the campers. Awesome. Good work, guys. I just want to finish this module with a little video. You guys have all seen TED Talks. Returners probably remember this TED Talk video. It's called Leading with Lollipops. It's a really great video. I don't really think... Can everyone see this if we leave the lights on? Is that fine?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Canada. That's a Canada.
I want to start by asking everyone in the audience here a question. How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who've helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happy. With my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school in a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, I remember the first time that I met you. And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, on my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad. And I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, look, we know you're scared. Let's just go to more. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what. And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she said, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the student union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shine Around, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along, and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shine Around. And all of a sudden, you got to me, and you just stopped, and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me, and you smiled, and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop, and you held it out to him. And you said, you need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you. And she said, I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life. He turned beet red. He wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and my dad, and you said, look at that. Look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger. And she said, everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flat. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, you should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later. A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, you've been an incredibly important person in my life, was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we've got people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. And it's so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. But as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us. And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful and agent for change they can be in this world, you change the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today. Have a great day.
Oh, not there. We don't have to clap.
So I think, obviously, like lollipop moments are exactly what Camp Testing is about. We'll have so many moments with kids that you'll notice or won't notice, like will have an incredibly substantial impact on them. And if you treat leadership as this kind of list of concrete ideas and concrete things you can do rather than this massive abstract concept, I guarantee you will be able to do a much better job of finding those lollipop moments and giving those to kids at camp. And that's all I have. Thanks, guys.